Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about proprioception. Proprioception is a very important sense that we all have. You typically think of, the classical five senses, touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. Proprioception's sixth sense, not quite like in the movie. It's about how you can feel the relationship between your body and other parts of your body in space. So proprioception, the most common reason or thing that you can think of that has to do with that is the way that you can eat with a fork and not stab yourself in the face. That's a very common thought. Other things are like touching your finger point to your nose with your eyes closed, or reaching out to slide your foot into a shoe without seeing exactly what your toes are doing. You can still tell the kind of motion that they're doing. And so today we're going to be looking at developing proprioception or improving proprioception in a patient who has a degenerative neurological condition. Now, this exercise can be applied to any population. Today we're going to be using a agility ladder. Agility ladder is one of my favorite methods for both working on proprioception in the lower extremity, but also speed and the ability, balance, and the ability to change directions in movement, which is really important both in athletes and just a regular population. It's important to be able to adapt to the things that you might not see coming, like somebody opening a door right in front of you, or a kid running out in front of you, or even just an animal coming up when you don't expect it. So as far as using a agility ladder and developing proprioception, the most important thing to develop proprioception or neurological abilities like this is exposure. So the thing we want to be focusing on is the amount of time that you spend developing proprioception is going to be the thing linked to the development of that proprioception. The same way that the more reps you do of a heavy weight, the easier it'll be to lift that weight. The more time you spend using proprioception, the better your proprioception will get. Perfect practice makes perfect, as one of my professors likes to say. So first things first, you can buy a agility ladder on Amazon for about 20 bucks. They're not very expensive. I mean, they're plastic and rope, or you could go to Home Depot and get some rope and do it. Or as you're about to see, you can get a roll of duct tape and go out in your driveway and just tape one down. If you're going to make one yourself, I'd recommend doing 1 foot by 1 foot squares on the inside. As far as the area goes, you can go bigger, you can go smaller, but it's going to be partially affected by the size of your foot, because you want to be able to fit your whole foot inside the spaces, and also how refined you want that proprioception to get, how small a space you want to be confining yourself to. But yeah, let's take a look at the overall setup that I have out there. So this first drill that I have set up here is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be stepping into the squares just like normal, just kind of walking through the ladder to get a feel for it. So that's proprioception in the sense that I'm focusing on changing my walk to be specific to the spaces of the ladder, though it may not seem like I'm doing anything profound. If you have a notable deficit in proprioception, like maybe present in a patient with neuropathy, the inability to feel, or someone who has a movement coordination disorder, like something that produces choreatic movement or ataxic movement, things like that, it's going to definitely be a challenge to them, and something that can be difficult to get into. Also, if you have low strength to start off with, just walking through places like that, very intentionally putting your feet, is going to be something that's challenging. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit more of a complex drill. So that one kind of takes it up just to the next step. Instead of alternating just between squares, you're focusing on getting both feet together in one square, as you can see. And so that modifies your balance with your expectations. So as you take individual steps in, you have to accelerate and decelerate, which works some on dynamic balance, but also just focusing in on having your feet in those individual squares, still working on that proprioception the same way. Now, the trend that these have both had is that they are both in one plane, moving forward and back across the line. And so there's a couple different ways that you can progress these exercises. The three most immediate ones that I'm focusing on is the speed, the number of directions that you're changing through, and the weight at which you yourself are presenting into this. So I am presenting at my own body weight. I'm not putting on more weight. I'm not taking off weight. For a patient who wanted to make this more intense, you could put a backpack on them, put some weights in there. That's going to make it more difficult to compensate for the little mistakes that they may make, because they're going to have to work harder to pull themselves back into their center of gravity. In the same way, if a patient's having trouble maintaining their balance, or having the strength, having the endurance to overcome the obstacles of balance here, or to just be able to not worry about falling and focus in on the specificity of where their feet are going, you can offload them. So you could do this in something like a zero-G apparatus, the machine, not a actual zero gravity environment, or you could work in a actual reduced gravity environment like a pool with a regular ladder. It's very easy to, with a regular rope version of this ladder, it's very easy to put that down on the bottom of a pool, something like that. And in a shallower environment that will offload the patient's weight, they can go through and perform the same drills like that. This will allow them to still focus on the placing of the feet and really getting a quality motion, but without the burden of the entirety of gravity working against them. So two other ways that you can make it more challenging is going to be moving in more than one direction. So the first exercise that I did here was just in one straight plane, forward and back, but in another exercise that I'm going to show you all here in a minute, I'm moving from left to right. And so of course you can move from right to left. You could lead with whatever foot you want in any of these to balance out the weight bearing or the lead for the proprioceptive exercise. But changing the direction that you're moving through more than just a single plane is going to be a very good way to progress this. And so let's take a look at that right here. So following along with that idea of progressing an exercise. So now that we've gone from one plane to two planes, from moving straight to moving side to side, now we can kind of mix those and get a multi-planar motion where you're going both side to side and forward across the ladder. And the third way that you're going to progress exercises like this is increasing the speed. So increasing the speed that you're performing these tasks at is going to really, really focus in on your ability to produce the quality of motion quickly, and the ability for you to still focus in and get your feet where they need to be and work on that proprioception. So this next one, I like to call a zipper. We can take a look at that right now. So you can see why that's kind of called a zipper, because you move in a zigzag kind of pattern. And that's going to be really good for dynamic changes in balance, working on proprioception with your feet in that ladder, and overall working on your lower extremity coordination. Going to be a really good idea for somebody who is appropriate for a ladder drill like this. And of course you want to be in a safe environment as well. You want to have a gait belt on if the patient needs one. But this is going to be a really good way to work on developing all those skills that they may be lacking as far as balance, coordination, proprioception, all that. Thanks for stopping by and taking a look. Feel free to like and subscribe. I put out new videos for class approximately every week. And have a fantastic rest of your quarantine.